Guys, how's it going? So today we have got a new tent to look at. Going to be setting it up for a backyard rain test because we're supposed to be taking and getting some rain over the course of tonight and even the next few days. So this is a tent that I've had now in my possession for probably about 3 weeks. Just haven't had a chance to get it out. It's been ridiculously hot and humid. And this is also a type of tent that I really do want to set up and kind of just see how well the water repellency is, because I've never tested anything from this brand before. This is a Thouse Winds Capricorn 2-person tent. Very, very lightweight. As you can see, that is the whole tent itself, aside from the trekking pole, because this is a trekking pole tent. But then I've also got the footprint ground sheet that is cut to the dimensions of this tent. And whenever you're looking at these lightweight or ultra lightweight tents, having a ground sheet is pretty important, because sometimes you can start to see things seep through. This tent is supposed to have a 2,000 millimeter hydrostatic head on it, so pretty solid. The weight is coming in about 790 grams, and on one of these sides I will put up some of the other information, but as always I will have a link down in the video description. And I am really looking forward to taking this thing out and actually giving her a test as soon as possible. And so this is very lightweight, but in case you are not familiar with what I'm talking about when I say trekking pole tent, if you're somebody that is already planning on carrying your trekking poles with you and you're going to be using them, you know, in your hands, then this weight factor doesn't really come into play unless you're just somebody that's just really big into the whole ultralight thing and you're just counting every single gram. But this right here is a pair of Ruckin River trekking poles that come in one of my battle boxes. And I've honestly not even used these things yet. You can see the snow baskets and all that stuff is still on there. But you really only need one trekking pole for this setup to work. And I do have a tent that is very similar in design, like with the pyramid shape. Actually, 2 different tents. They're still pretty different. Whereas this one is a, you know, a 2-person, but more likely it's going to be like a 1-person, and then you'll have plenty of room for your gear inside. But with the pyramid shape, you should be good for 4 seasons in most cases. So again, another little close-up there, Thouse Winds Capricorn, and you can just see the dimension of this. The thing is not big at all. And this one is the green version. It comes in black and kind of like a coyote brown color. A really thin ripstop material. When I say thin, it still feels very durable from things I've felt before. There is our small bag of steaks. So yeah, I just wanted to take and make sure that the zippers and stuff was zipped up before I started fooling with it. That's just always a good practice because it makes setting up easier, and then you don't run the risk of damaging your zippers as easily. So we'll take and open up our ground sheet here. I do not remember the weight of this off the top of my head. It's hardly noticeable, and you see how small it is. But this will just give you a good idea of your footprint. And then you don't have to really worry about moisture and stuff seeping up through your floor if you're somewhere where it is really wet. And then with this one, picking your front side is really easy because you've got your vents, one on the front, one on the back at the very top, and then your front just will have your zipper. And this is just, you know, a single front, single door design. Have a quick gander at what our steaks look like. So these are aluminum, just your standard 3-sided steak. And then we'll just start by lining up the floor of the tent and staking the body out along with the ground sheet, and all this can be adjusted a bit more because there will be a few stakeout points with this type of design. But again, for a first time setup, this is going very smoothly. Alrighty, so now we should be good. Unzip our center zipper, and then there's a reinforcement point here on the inside at the very tip. And you could actually take and tie this up as well if you had the ability to do that. If you had to like run a ridge line. Okay, so there is our trekking pole in place. So now we'll zip that back down, and then we'll go back to staking out our other stakeout points. Unless it might actually be easier to go ahead and stake out this other corner first. I think that's actually what we will do, because that should give us, make it a little bit easier. Okay, so essentially that is the tent set up. We are going to take and stake out at least one of these, so if we want to use this thing fully zipped. But then also with these sides out the way they are, you can roll these back, which this time of year is what I would recommend doing. And I'll bring you guys in and we'll look at some of the other stuff closer. There is part of this that is, I've got a little bit off that we'll adjust in a second, because this side right here is really taut. The left side, not so much. So I just need to do some minor adjustments to it. But there's also lots of little tie out points on the sides at along each seam, so that you can pull the walls and sides out. Okay, and there we go. That is with the doors rolled back. And just going around, I've got it adjusted pretty dang well. There's a slight little dip right there where I set it up, so if there's any slight looking deformations, that's what it is, and that's kind of why there's just a slight little dip too right there in the corner of the material. But like what I was saying is along the seams down through here, there is points to where you can pull this off to tie it out if you really wanted to pull the walls and stuff out if that was necessary. But I can say that right now, once you get down inside of this thing, that wouldn't be necessary at all. One thing I'm really glad to see that I didn't notice before this come is we've got that lip right there on the back side, so we do have a bit of additional ventilation that can come up through there, because your 3 walls in the back here, or your sides and then your back, is just single layer ripstop nylon. And then here we have our zippered doors. All you gotta do is just kind of offset your trekking pole to one side, and then the zippers run along the bottom of each one, and then obviously up through the middle. Up there at the top, we've got our vents. So right now we actually need to adjust that. So we got a nice little stiff bar here with Velcro on it, so we can put that in place, and that'll open up and allow excess moisture and heat to escape out of the top. And then something I'm really impressed with, like one, there is plenty of room on the inside of the tent to take and put your bag against the back side there. But if you didn't want to take up and block any ventilation, you can still put it on the inside there. But if you have one of these sides fully closed, there is a ton of room. So I mean, if you're really well acquainted with somebody, you could sleep 2 people in this thing, and there is plenty of room in the vegetable area here to store packs and stuff. Now clearly, if you have any grass or anything underneath this area and you have it completely closed, there's going to be a lot of condensation here, and some of it will kind of come up in and over into the area that you're at. That's why, if at all possible, you'd want to have these rolled back, or you can take another trekking pole and actually kind of stake these out and pull them down with the extra cordage that's included with the stakes. And you could even raise up the other corner and have pretty much an awning that would come up from your center stakeout points. And that's the type of thing that you can play around with, and I will play around with as well, but we're going to keep it set up in just its regular pyramid fashion, so that we can, again, test the seams, see how well they take and handle any precipitation up here around the top of the tent, the crown area. And then how the zipper, this appears to have like a waterproof style zipper on it. And then I will crawl in here real quick so you can get an idea of the size. So in case you're new, I am 5'10", 150 pounds. So laying down, the tips of my toes are not touching that. So if I go all the way to the back, I could lay down. Somebody else my size could easily lay beside me, so like 2 sleeping pads would fill up this whole floor area. And then I've still got a decent amount of room here, because you got to remember, it's this type style of tent. It's going to be fairly specific to people that are looking to shed weight, or that are interested in more of a 4-season style tent that they could use in different environments. Having a tent like this, for me, I don't necessarily recommend it for this extremely hot and humid weather that we've been having, which is why I haven't took it out and field tested it yet. But the overall build quality of the materials, the sewing, the mesh, everything seems really solid so far. I love all the tie-off points. There is an O-ring up here at the top to where you could hang a light. There's one little gear storage pocket to where you can stick your phone or a headlamp to be right off to your right. But that is the only gear storage pocket in here. But it is really nice that they included that O-ring right there to where you can hang a small light or your headlamp if you need to. I would just say that if you're over probably about 6'2", 6'2" would definitely be a max. Ideally, if you're just kind of right around the 6 foot range, that's where you're going to be liking it. Otherwise, you're probably going to wake up with your feet and stuff, like in your sleeping bag, touching against one of the walls. But I do believe that is all of the key points to touch on here on the interior. And I do have plenty of room in the center of this to sit up at the moment. Depending on how thick your sleeping pad is, I mean, I could probably have a solid, 3-inch sleeping pad and still have headroom here to sit up crisscross applesauce and, ride out rain or whatever you needed to do. Or even with this folded back, there's enough of a lip to where you could even have a little gas stove and cook under this, as long as you left that front area where you guys are at completely open. Yep. The zippers on the mesh are very smooth. I have that other stake, and ideally I would stake out this front section right here, but I kind of just want there to be a little bit of play and give in the material here in the front, so I can kind of compare and see how that does, see if there's any major pulling, because a tent of this design I have had, it's pretty easy to knock out your front stakeout point getting in and out of it, and it can be hard to notice it at night. So I'm going to include that as part of this little test and just see how the corners hang on, if there is any wind that might catch this front lip. So that's all the key features. Now we're just going to take and wait for a night of rain and stuff to hit it, and we'll take a look at it, see if it leaks anywhere, see how it handles some heavy condensation that will be coming up from the grass and stuff in like the heat of the day. So I'll get back with y'all whenever it's time to do that. Alright guys, so here is the tent after 2 days and nights of some pretty steady rain, and then last night we got some heavy downpours, and then later into the early morning it got really windy and breezy, so it has took and pretty much dried the outside of the tent fabric completely off. But I was coming and checking on it. During that heavy rain footage, I actually stopped and was trying to show the interior, but because my screen got water on it, it just kept ending the video. But I'll take you guys inside now, because if there was any moisture that got in there, still not enough time has passed where it would it would have gone away. But as I periodically checked on it, not a single drop of water made its way in. And then you probably noticed in some of those shots that this thing was whipping around fairly a lot, and I believe I need a slightly longer trekking pole, so that would be something that I would do different. I'm sure I've got one that extends a little bit longer than, what was it, the Ruckin River? Yeah, Ruckin River trekking pole that's in there. So there's something to keep in mind, especially if you end up being on soft ground, because as that weight and stuff presses down. Didn't have any issue with the tent coming undone at any of the corners, and I did not make any adjustments because I wanted this fabric to take and stretch out naturally with the rain, the heat, and the wind. But the thread design that they used for this, which apparently doesn't use any seam sealant, worked out really well. So that's something I was most surprised about. And something too, there is enough of an overhang here that when you unzip this thing to get in and out of it, like while it's raining, other than any moisture that drips off of your clothing, none dripped off of the tent body itself to the interior, but all of the corners. I left this hatchet in here to kind of sink down into the bottom, but there was zero pooling in here. When I stuck my head in, I just had some water, which there's still probably a drop or two right there, that was just dripping off of my the hood on my raincoat. But I left this in the center so that this would cause a bit of an area that could pool up. But overall, even though I hadn't even planned on doing a full leaving it out for 3 days, after I heard that heavier storm was coming through, I just really wanted to go ahead and give this thing a solid test. But there you have it. I am impressed with it. There's actually a storm going around us right now because I was wanting to get this thing packed up before it got wet again. But this will be the next tent that I take out and do an overnighter with. Probably going to revisit that same spot in the mountains by that creek that we last found when we tested the one wind tent. So stay tuned for that. We should have a couple of slightly cooler days coming up very soon. So we'll have another overnighter. Apologies for just the pure gear videos and some of the experimental stuff that I've been dropping recently, but it's just that time of year. So your first impressions, the Thousand Winds Capricorn 2-person tent, lightweight tent. I'm excited to get it out and try it. If there's anything specific you'd like me to touch on whenever we do the overnighter about this tent, or if there was any questions you had, I will try to answer them in the comments, just in case I didn't touch on everything. But that's going to do it for this one. I will have this tent linked down in the video description if you want to check it out for yourself with the trekking pole. Yeah, you know the name of it, but I probably won't link to it because I think you would be better off using a different type of trekking pole. So please make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're not already, share the channel videos with your friends, family, anybody that enjoys go outdoor activities and gear. And until the next one, guys, adios.